Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Doug Reed with the Let's Go Show. I'm excited again to have an exclusive interview with this brother. Let me tell you, he'll get into more as far as what he do, but actually the coordination and I just posted on Instagram today some things about good people. You know when people are good people. So this brother is good people. We're gonna talk about what he does, but his name is Troy. How you pronounce it? Is it Blind?
Blyden. Yeah.
Blyden. Excuse me.
Yes,
Want to
sir.
make sure Troy Blyden, and we'll get into it. Troy, how you doing?
I'm good, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. And there's a list of things that you do, uh, and I'll just put it out there now. Like Troy is currently actually coming off tour with the Harlem Globetrotters, and we'll talk about that too. I'm a lover of basketball, so that plays a factor. But Troy, tell us a little bit about your younger years. Where'd you grow up?
So, yeah, when I tell people where I grew up, they ask if I'm a military brat because I moved around so much. So I was born in Harlem Hospital in New York. Lived there for a couple years. My parents split up, and I actually moved to Minnesota, and I lived there probably 2 years in Minneapolis, and then after that moved to outside of Cleveland, and that was the majority of my childhood was outside of Cleveland, Ohio. So like 9 years there, and then in 2008, me and my family moved to Florida, like probably an hour away from Tampa, and then like 5 years later, I ended up in Tampa, and then went to school in South Carolina. After school, moved back to New York because my dad's side of the family never left, and then moved back to Florida. So like I've been all over the place, like in life, and then on tour with the Globetrotters as well. So yeah, majority of my childhood was in Ohio, and then high school, Florida.
Well, let me ask you, even with that, because like you said, moving around can have some negative effects, but it can actually have some positive effects as well. What are some of the
Yeah,
things that you learn from moving around and you still hold to this day as far as let's say lessons, life lessons?
yeah. Well, just off the top of my head, it kind of it helps you learn who you are because it's like you're moving around, you have to adjust to all these different environments, and you're taking things from all these different types of people that you're meeting, and it does help formulate who you are alongside your family and stuff. But yeah, it teaches you to be yourself no matter what environment you're in. That's what I've learned. I've kind of always felt like odd one out in a lot of places because I grew up around a lot of white people, a lot of
Mm.
white kids in my school. It was like I was the one of the only black kids that had some similar interests as them, but then other interests that they had no knowledge of. So it's like I always felt like I was kind of like in the middle. So yeah, it just that's number one. Just taught me how to be
Yeah.
myself in any environment, no matter what. Yeah.
Now, of course, you're on tour or coming off tour with the Globetrotters, but so when was the first time you really picked up a basketball and what what intrigued you to really fall in love with the sport?
First time ever picking up a basketball, probably younger than I could remember. But the first time I can remember, the age I remember first playing like organized basketball was probably 6 or 7. So yeah, I don't have a moment where it was like, oh, that's the moment I fell in love with the game. It was just I
Hmm.
was my stepdad. He was an athlete. He was in the NFL. So like I was raised by an athlete, and it was just a part of my life since the time since before I could remember. So I was all he was just like, you know what? I could tell you're gonna be athletic. We're gonna try this. We're gonna try that. So I just came up playing, and I loved it. I loved and one. I loved playing NBA live. Like just it was just a part of the culture that I loved. Like basketball went hand in hand with music and skateboarding. It was all one for me. So yeah, that's really what it was. I just
Yeah,
came up doing it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. It's funny. I think about the and one. I was actually a friend of mine was fortunate to be on tour with and one. I think it was right after they had some transition. I can't remember the young lady's name that bought them, but I remember being up in New York actually when E40 came to New York. I remember it quite well because there was some, still some uncertainty around, West Coast, East Coast rapper type thing, and he was performing. I think the kid, who was the kid that won the 25,000? I think it was Spider.
Professor.
What was it? No, it wasn't a professor. I think it was Spider, a
Okay.
little stocky guard. But I remember, and they played in Madison Square Garden. I remember being on that floor. I was like, oh wow, we in a garden, But and one, and even when I worked basketball camps with Daniel Marshall, and one at that time was doing some big sponsorship with him. Um, we had all kind of and one gear from the shorts to the t-shirts. And that and one thing brought a lot of things to light, as far as, what people see as far as entertainment. Basketball can be entertainment, going back to what you're doing. Now, did you play basketball? I mean, as far as high school, how was your high school career?
High school career. I mean, I played all of high school. Like from age 6 and up, I always
Mm-hmm.
played in every team. So yeah, high school. I went to a public school in Pasco County in Florida, which is like probably close to an hour away from Tampa. Um, average to above average competition. I went 3 years, 3 years out of public school there. And then after my third year, I transferred to a private school, Oldsmar Christian, because that was just where a lot of guys were going to go to college. They they specialized in basketball. That's what they were known for. We have so many guys that have gone D1, some guys to the league, some overseas. So I saw what they were doing over there, and I was like, "Yo, mom, like I want to go there."
Hmm.
I had a couple friends go there. I was like, "Yeah, that's what I want to do," and especially because like I I really knew I needed that extra push to be able to go to the next level because I was in the early days like I wasn't the most talented kid. Like I had a lot of potential, but I didn't really tap into that potential until a little bit later. So I knew being around people that were way better than me, it was going to help me go to the next level. So, yeah, my high school career was, it had a lot of ups and downs, but overall, like I know I made the right decision going to a private school because I ended up going to a Division II college, North Greenville University.
Oh,
So,
Greenville. Now,
yeah, I
where's
mean,
that
we can get
located?
into that too if you want. Yeah,
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
South Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like an hour away from Clemson. Yeah. Yeah, so and really how I got my scholarship, it was like my coach, of course, helped a lot, but and we had a lot of talent on our team. I was probably like the eighth player on the team for real. And
Wow.
so I wasn't like my coach, I wasn't a priority of his really, shout out to him, he did his thing. Like, but yeah, so my mom was really the one who got me a scholarship for real. Like she had like she was sending my tape out, emailing coaches. Like she got me a bunch of visits for real. I was going on visits that had nothing to do with my coach. Like we would tell him, but it was because my mom emailed the coaches and reached out, and like they saw my highlights and they were like, "Oh, okay, like yo, he's athletic. Like let's see what he can do. Let's bring him on a visit." So yeah, I went to like a D3 school, like on a visit. Went to a couple of D2s, NAIAs, whatever, and then finally one of my teammates, he was being recruited by North Greenville, which is a Division II,
Hmm.
and they wanted a shooter, so like they got him. He committed, and I was like, oh okay, like I was super happy for him. But then he told them about me, and then they saw me, and then they were like, oh, we want him, like we want him too. So then they offered me and flew me out for a visit, and then after that, I was just like, yeah. When I went there, I felt like I was at home. And it
Wow.
helped that my high school teammate, was already committed there. So, yeah, I signed them papers and then did 4 years there.
Actually, I got a couple things. So let's go back
Yeah,
to your mom and her actually taking it. I'll say those reins, because it is very important. I mean, now kind of makes it a little easier now. I think because of social media, because the advancement of technology, but for her to actually take those reins and say, hey, look, um, especially from high school coaches and even AAU coaches, like there's a certain responsibility that we place on them. High school coaches, there's a relationship, can be, almost like a father-son type thing, dependent, but then there's a system uh, of protection where I think high school coaches, depending on your relationship, you don't get all the information to come in. You may not get all the letters that come in. And that happens even on the AAU circuit. All that stuff may not come in depending on who's on the team and or who's more popular. And they kind of, they be on a power trip, but it's up to that parent to make sure that one, it's in your best interest or y'all best interest as a family to go somewhere where one, you think you can play, two, where you know that you're going to get an education, and then to go forward with that. Even with that and selecting, now how important uh, even being at the Division two. Like I had the opportunity to coach at a JUCO for a couple of years, and it was funny because everybody that came to the JUCO swore they were Division one players. And it's like, okay, you're Division one, but why are you here? One was usually the
Yeah.
grades. Grades was the big part of that. But one, and they really couldn't compete at that level because they wasn't, nobody really understands to compete at those level what it takes. The extra training, the relationships, and I thought that was something too that you stress. Like your friend was getting uh, recruited, and yet he told them about you, and then you get recruited. How important is relationships for any player? Just coming up as you build on you're in that circuit. How important are relationships?
Oh man, it's super important. I mean, just like you said, like who knows if they would have ever heard about me if it wasn't for my teammates saying something. So obviously you have to put in the work. So when you do form those relationships, you have something to back it up. But it's just like in anything in life. This is relationships. Like this podcast, this is a relationship. So yeah, that applies to everything. And like the basketball world, especially, is so small. So it's like if you know this guy, he probably played with this guy that knows this guy, and it's like it just keeps going up. Like I have one of my AU teammates is an assistant coach on the Lakers now.
Mm.
Like and Austin Reeves on the Lakers, his older brother was our leading scorer in my sophomore year of college. So it's like, and they probably don't even know the connection there. So it's just like it's a web. So yeah, relationships are everything in life.
Yeah. Now let me ask you. Even okay, so now you're in college. What did you? What was your major?
Sport management and business. Yeah. So I
Oh,
guess technically, I got a job in my major field.
yeah.
So
And business is a big part of that. I mean, even for
mhm.
you, I mean, now, of course, did you play overseas as well?
I did not know.
All right. So after, you finish your career, going to Greenville, what is it? North Greenville?
Hmm.
Going to North Greenville now, it's about taking it to the next level. Uh,
Yeah.
what was actually going on there? Now coming out of Greenville, not sure, how was your career at Greenville, and then what were your expectations to go to the next level?
Yeah. I mean, well, honestly, this is one of my favorite parts of my story because I took what I learned from my mom, the perseverance and the emailing coaches, and I applied that to my own practice. So right after senior season is coming to an end, I put together my own highlight tape, and I'm like, all right, I guess the next step is trying to play overseas. So yeah, let's try to do that. So I'm sending my stuff out to coaches, not getting any bites, no responses really. And it got to a point where I was like, you know what? Yeah, and I asked my coach too, like, whatever connections you have, like, you got a couple guys that went overseas. If you could do anything, just tell me out. And he did what he could, and it just didn't work out. So then I said, you know what? Um, I'm gonna do the. I had an internship with the New York Yankees
Mm.
that I had been doing. I had been doing all of college. Really, I did it this summer in between my sophomore and junior year, and then in between my junior and senior year, and then I was doing the final year. Um, so sorry, I was getting a call. So I do that, And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this, and maybe I'll get a job with the Yankees. Like at this point in my life, I'm just going through the motions. I'm just hoping something happens, really. So like I have all these great opportunities, but I don't have that like fire. And so I do my internship. I'm like talking to the guys above me, and I'm like, look, like, do you have anything for me full time once this is up? The answer kept being no, no, no. And I'm just like, yo, I don't know what to do, man. So internship ends. I'm like, all right, I don't play basketball anymore. Like that's how I identified. I'm like, all right, my basketball career is over.
Mhm.
Uh, so time to get a real job. So I get a job at at this hotel in New York City called the Standard. Really nice hotel. It's actually the hotel that Jay-Z and Solange got in a fight.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you, yeah.
Yeah, I
It's that
remember
hotel.
that. Yeah.
So yeah. So I get a job there as a busser, like I'm a bus boy, like cleaning up tables and stuff. And I'm just like, damn. I mean, I did it, but
Mhm.
something didn't feel right. So I did that for 11 months. Ended up saying I wanted to be a bartender. Like I was just going to keep moving up. So I ended up being a bar back, working at the bar. And then it's like I was just like, this ain't right, bro. Like something. I feel like I'm just wasting potential right now. Like
Right.
I'm still athletic. Like I was still working out, lifting weights and stuff. But I was like, yo, I need to be jumping and playing ball. Like I
Yeah.
still have this in me. So I just decided I'm gonna quit. I didn't even make it a year. I was like, I'm done. I had a little bit of money saved up, quit my job, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna figure this basketball thing out. We're gonna go overseas, we're gonna do something.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that's all the direction I had. Had a few $1,000s saved up and somewhat of a idea of what I wanted. So I start doing what my mom did. I start emailing every coach I could find. There was this website. Uh, I'll get to that. So I'm emailing every coach I could, all the agents I could find. There was actually a guy on YouTube that I found, and he was vlogging his experience playing ball overseas. So I
Mhm.
DM'd him on Instagram, and I asked him like, "Yo, what advice could you give me? I need some clarity here. Like, what direction should I go in?" He gave me a website that I can find all the coaches and agents' information. So that was a hack that he blessed me with. So then I emailed every single coach and agent on that website. It was hundreds of people. And I got a couple of responses here and there that were just like, oh, we're not really looking for anybody right now, whatever, blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. And finally, this semi-pro team in the Bronx called the Bronx Holy Flames,
Right.
they said they were interested in having me come to a tryout, one of their practices, which would essentially be a tryout for me. I went there, and I mean, I balled out. Like I dunked on somebody so crazy, like that, like Vince Carter style. Like I jumped
Yeah.
over somebody and got a
Yeah.
putback on him, and they were like, "Oh man, like you coming to play with us?"
Right.
So, so yeah. Then I went to play with them, and after like 2 games, the team just fell apart. It was weird. Like the coach quit. Like it was crazy. It was like a fight in the group chat. I was like, "Yo, what's going on?" So that was over after like a couple weeks. So I'm like, all right, like back to the drawing board. Like I'm running out of time. I'm running out of money. I got to figure something out. So my dad, I'm talking to my dad. I'm just telling him like, yo, I don't know what to do. And he's like, yo, why don't you hit up Mike? And Mike was this guy that we knew that used to play for the Globetrotters. And I used to coach for a couple years back. I coached for his AAU team. It was an eight
Mhm.
and under team, little kids. And so he's like, yo, hit up Mike. Like he'll put you in contact with the Trotters. Like you bugging. My dad's from New York, so he's like cursing me out. Like, yo, you bugging, man. Like he's like, if that was me, I would have been on it. So I'm like, all right, yo. But I'm like, I don't really want to do that. Like I don't want to play for the Roach. I didn't really know too much about them. Like I knew they were a big part of pop culture, but I didn't know like what they were doing currently. So then he told my mom like that I really wasn't being receptive of what he was saying. And then my mom calls me and she curses me out, yo. Like she was like, man, what the you doing? Blah blah blah. Like you need to call them people, like curse me out. And I was like, all right, mom talking about that. All right, let me try. So so then finally I reached out to the Globetrotters. I reached out to Mike, and Mike put me in contact with Al Clocker, who is the director of scouting for the Globetrotters. And then he was like, all right, send me some film, send me highlights, let's see what you can do. Once I sent that, he replied immediately and was like, yo, we'd love to have you come to a game to try out. So I
Wow.
went to their practice. They had a game in Connecticut like a week later, which
Mm.
was super convenient. So I drove up to Connecticut from New York and went to a practice, and then they were just putting me through drills, throwing me lobs. It was like a one person tryout.
Mm.
So after that, they brought me to the back and they were like, all right, we want to bring you on. And I was like, all right, cool. And
Wow.
literally the rest is history. Like, and that was in 2019.
But even with that, though, I mean, I don't think your first, there's two teams. Well, there's a
Yes,
couple
yes,
teams, couple rosters, but let's talk about those Washington Generals.
yes, yes, yes. So when they brought me on, it was as a Washington General. And yeah. So basically, without revealing too much, like um I started with the Generals and I played with them, which is the rival team to the Globetrotters, and I played with them for really two. Well, I played with them from 2019. Then COVID happened. No, right before COVID, actually, I was playing as a Globetrotter for like a couple weeks, and then COVID hit, and then we went home, and then contract meetings come back around, and I'm like, and then I get brought back on as a general, and I'm like, all right. But then this past tour, I did half of the tour as a Globetrotter, so like I got that opportunity again, and this time it was just like it couldn't have gone better.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what it's looking like for the future. So
Yeah. And I was fortunate to
that's
know.
been a lot of ups and downs. But yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead, sorry.
No, I was saying I was fortunate. We were talking before that, I had dinner with Speedy and Corey. Well, no, Corey is what Thunder.
Yes.
Talk about Zeus being at my high school. Like I'm like, yeah, I'm developing this relationship with the Globetrotters, and and I go way back with the Globetrotters. I remember the Curly Neals playing in the Metal Arc Lemons. Like I was a kid. So even for me, even this, that's what I told you. I respect you for coming on this interview because even as a kid, I enjoyed it. But even now, what everything that the Globetrotters brings to a city. Going back to what I said before, like good people, those are some of the qualities that speaks volumes for your character and things that you're doing. Uh, what's one of your passions as far as community that you want to get back or a display of what you do? Like, what's your passion as far as taking a community to another level?
Well, it's a few things. I'm very passionate about exercise, diet, like proper diet, and then mental health. So it's like a trifecta of all of them are intertwined because the diet and the exercise affects the mental health, you know, and the community affects the mental health. Like it's all connected. So for me, I just like to make a positive impact on kids and just anybody really
Mm-hmm.
through through example, through lead by example. So people see me on Instagram eating a certain way or working out a lot. They tell me all the time, like, yo, you keep me motivated to like work out. I worked out today because I saw your post. Like that means a lot to me because I would do that no matter what. I love working out. I love eating right. Makes me feel good. And something like therapy is something that I've done in the past. And like I'm actually currently looking for another therapist. I think that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
I think but I think a lot of people shy away from it because it's hard to find somebody that you really vibe with. It's like you might try it once and then you didn't really connect with that person. So you're like, therapy isn't for me. But it's not, that's not really the case. It's like, you're not going to, let's say you're dating somebody and it doesn't work out. You're not just going to be like, relationships aren't for me. So, um, so yeah, the mental health piece is really big for me. And I think by doing all those things and leading by example, I think it helps people's mental health overall. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question. That was kind of all
No,
over the place, but
no, it does because I think, I mean, you said it. One thing. I was with, former director of partnerships for Black Men Heal, went through the therapy. And actually, when I went to the therapy, actually changed my whole perspective on therapy. Uh, but one of the things that I really got into after I got into therapy and I came back and did my own personal research was the 8 dimensions of wellness. And that just talks about your wellness, going back to what you're eating, going back to your finances, going back to your social, going back to, your environment, nature, all those things according to your wellness. And like you said, even the things you eat, I can't say I eat well, but when I'm conscious of what I do eat, more vegetables, more fruits, more salads, like I can feel the difference in my body. I can feel, I don't feel as sluggish, and then of course the mental part, I just joined a gym maybe what I think a week now, but now I had the opportunity. This gym has a sauna, and I'm like, oh my God. I mean, that's a whole
Game
nother,
changer.
yeah, that's a whole nother game changer, to actually have a workout and then go in the sauna. You can't take a phone in there. You can't take anything in there. So now I'm at peace with myself. And of course, how that makes your body feel. So, tell us a little bit more about the tour. I know you see you guys are kind of in it, but how has the tour been? And what's been what has been the biggest highlight of the tour?
Well, the biggest highlight of the tour is just being able to play as a globetrotter for however many 2 months. That was huge. I mean, I played in front of some really big crowds and performed really well. Played in front of my family. Like that was really special for me. And tour was this tour, the East Coast tour, that actually is my least. I like all the tours, but that's my least favorite just because of the weather. We're
Of
in a lot
course.
of cold cities, but it taught me a lot because it forced me to focus when I had my free time. Like, I was very conscious about not going out, just staying to myself a lot. But at the same time, like hanging out with the guys and stuff, but just being focused on, other things. Um, so and I think that contributed to how well I performed overall. So I focused a lot. I was so present this tour. I was really just focused on every day. How can I heal my body through this strenuous tour and jumping and running every day? Like, what can I do? Doing acupuncture, stretching, working on mobility. So like, this was the most focused I've ever been on tour. So
Wow.
it taught me a lot about myself in
Hey,
terms of like, yeah,
let
discipline
me
and stuff.
go back a little bit because I don't think we
Mm-hmm.
touched on that.
Sure.
Did you have a modeling career as well?
Yeah, actually, I just signed to a modeling agency, One Management in New York, back in
Oh,
like the beginning of tour, probably
okay.
like January. So that's something I'm getting into now. So I'm actually going to be probably moving to New York this summer, like in the next month. So I'm gonna be spending some time there, and yeah, that's just another avenue I'm getting into. It's always been around me because my mom, she's actually she works in that industry,
Okay.
and she has for a long time. So, but yeah, now I'm at the point where like I feel like I've built up a presence online and just a certain confidence with myself. So I just want to take that and go to that avenue with it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely proud of you on that, man. And I
no,
know
thank you.
you do well. I mean, you're a handsome gentleman, carry yourself, good shape, and of course, personality and character actually speaks volumes. And then you come to New York. That New York is I tell people I'm in Jersey, but a train ride away. Sounds like a lunch. We can actually do lunch.
Word,
So
absolutely.
tell me, what's your plans for the future? I mean, we talked about the Globetrotters, Marlon, but what do you see?
Well, that could be answered in a couple ways. When it comes to like family life, I definitely want a family. I see myself having a wife and kids and somewhat of a stable life. Um, Career wise, I definitely want to keep growing my brand right now with these imperfect shirts.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to be something I do forever, but I know right now, just being present, that's what I see for myself. That's where I'm growing right now. I always see myself making some type of content that could maybe help somebody. I was actually talking with my friends today, and we were talking about the podcast and just like even videos that didn't have a lot of views. We were like, "Yo, this is gonna be so cool to look at 20 years from now." And it's like that's the number one reason I started YouTube, my own channel, because I was like documenting my hair journey and just talking to my mom and my brothers, and I just wanted to use that as like a time capsule. So because I mean, so many people. Once I saw the impact it could make on just a couple people, and they were saying, "Yo, your words in this part of the video that really helped me." Uh, that that's more important than most things to me. Like that's huge. So I just want to be able to help people in whatever way that is at the time. I don't have this grand plan of like this is how I see my life. That is a goal of mine to eventually have it to where like, all right,
Yeah.
that's at least what I want to aim for, even though it might not be that perfect, but I think it's good to have something that you envision. Uh, but yeah, I just want to help people in some whatever way
Yeah, I'm the same
I
way.
feel at the time. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Going back, that's how I started my podcast. Actually, the guys working with Black Men Hill, Reginald Howard, and that's what he's saying. Like, we say, OG called me said, like, look, it's probably one of the best ways to leave a legacy. I mean, you said it, to go back and reflect, like, 20 years from now, well, I'll be 80, but just to go back, on my grandchildren, go back, say, oh, wow, G Pop was interviewed one of the globetrotters. Like, that's amazing. But tell me a little bit about the brand, the Imperfect brand, and the meaning behind that.
Yeah. So I write down a lot of my ideas, most of them. If I get any type of idea, it doesn't have to be business related, but just I jot down notes, just things that come to my head, quotes. I love rap music, so it's like I love lyrics and poetry and stuff like that. So I'm always jotting things down. And that just happened to be something that I thought of and jotted it down. I was like, oh, I'm gonna put that on a shirt or do something with that. So I put it down in my notes, and then probably like 6 months to a year later, that's when I finally decided to actually put it on shirts. And I've always loved clothes because that ties into the what we were talking about earlier with basketball, skateboarding, fashion, music, all of that is tied in together. It's under one umbrella for me.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, I decided to start making shirts in like 2019, and this was a whole nother thing. I was literally just doing iron-ons. Like I would print out a picture that I liked and pick a shirt, the certain color, and then just like iron that joint on. And they came out good, and I was selling them. I had a website and everything. But then I was like, all right, this isn't as efficient as I'd like it to be. So this time around, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get a screen printer, like have somebody do it for me, and that's what I did. So the meaning behind it, I like people to first. What do you see it as? Because I like to hear people's perception of it before anything.
I mean, the first thing comes to mind, well, imperfect. So I'm always speaking about, I'm not the perfect person. So when I think of imperfect, it relates to me because I'm thinking, yeah, I am off a little bit. I'm not the perfect person. I do have flaws. I do have, sometimes I do compare myself to others and I don't match up. So, that's what I get out of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and that is one side of it because it is a double entendre because you have the I am in parentheses, like I'm perfect because obviously
Mhm.
we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but we're made in God's image, so like that is perfection. So
That's a gem, brother.
yeah, absolutely. So that's it's a cool play on words. It ties into my love of rap music. It's like so it's perfect for me. No pun intended. So that's I also have another design that I came up with, Immortal, and that's the same thing. It's like uh, our physical bodies are mortal. I'm mortal. We're gonna
Wow.
die. Our bodies are gonna rot one day. but your soul and what you leave on this planet is immortal. That makes you immortal. Your YouTube videos, your podcast, that immortalizes you. So the brand is the duality brand. All of these things deal with duality. Um, TDB, the duality brand. That's my
Yeah.
initials. Troy Damian Blyden. So I like encoding things and having double entendres and stuff. So yeah, and
Okay.
it's and a big part of it is like I spoke at a couple of years ago. I spoke at my homeboy's. His aunt is a principal or counselor at a middle school, and I went and spoke to them on like career day or something. It was career day, I believe, and I was able to like spread the message of imperfect and stuff, and it was like that kind of clicked for me. It was like I really am passionate about helping kids find confidence in who they are. Like that's really big for me because I know that's something that I struggled with as a kid. So anytime I would see somebody like a Kanye West or like Pharrell, like that was just like unapologetically themselves. That was always
Wow.
big for me and helped me identify myself. So yeah, that's another part of it.
Wow. I love it, brother. I mean, I really love it. A couple of gems you drop. Um, and then just the, looking at it like, I'm perfect. I'm mortal. Those are gems because I think everything evolves around a confidence building that we have to have for ourselves. Especially being, as they say, being from marginalized communities, we're always looked at as less than. So we have to maintain and educate ourselves about our history, educate ourselves about our surroundings, and educate ourselves that we're more than what people think. We're definitely conquerors. So I really appreciate you dropping those gems.
Yes,
So
sir.
I'm gonna, we're gonna take it. I think you about ready for this Let's Go challenge.
Okay, let's get it.
For some it could be rough, but I think you're gonna do well.
Okay,
Like I told you, Let's Go challenge. I'll say a word. You come back with, one or two words or one word, whatever, however you feel. And it's about 10 words, and we'll just take it from there.
cool. I'm ready.
All right. So we'll start with wisdom.
I just thought of my great uncle, very wise man.
And let me ask you, is that the interview that you have on IG?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and people, you have to go and watch that.
Yeah,
And I mean,
he talk about gems. I mean, he dropped a lot of gems,
yeah, yeah,
and that's one of the people that's just been a huge influence in my life. Like since a kid, he was just like one of those male figures in my life. So yeah.
that's good. Legacy.
Well, aside from the Jay-Z song, I just think of. Does it have to be one word? I'm
No,
sorry.
sir. No, sir.
Okay. So first I thought of the Jay-Z song Legacy, uh, track 10 on 444. But when I hear legacy, I think of financial generational wealth
Mm-hmm.
and making something that you can pass on to your kids. Not just money, but maybe a business or just wisdom, so yeah.
Good stuff. Basketball.
Therapy. I mean, just like having a rough day, you had a rough day, or maybe you're bored one day, you just go out there and just dribble and shoot and just you just by yourself and you just work out. You work out your jump shot. Like I don't know. It's like your mind is spinning as the ball spins when you shoot. It's like it's very therapeutic. Just being out there alone with a basketball.
No, you gotta bring how they say
Yeah.
bring that beat back. you
Yeah,
you said
it's like your mind is spinning
hmm,
as the ball spins when you shoot. That rotation on the ball. It's like, yeah, And just hearing the sound of the ball dribbling and the net is like, yeah. And this is
I,
coming from somebody who's not even like I'm not even like a basketball fanatic like my
mhm.
teammates or a lot of people that I know, but it's just like such a big part of my life, and I have such a love for a lot of aspects of the game. So it's like, yeah, when I'm thinking about it, thinking about my childhood and like shooting in the backyard, is like it's a lot of core memories of my life that are tied to this sport.
Wow.
So I have respect for it, you know.
Well, I know that's probably gonna come out on one of your bars, man. So I'm taking credit for that one, bro. I mean, when they write on their credits, just put
Yeah,
Doug
yeah,
Reed,
yeah, for
put Doug
sure.
Reed down for credits. um, success.
Not just money.
Mm.
Success is success is raising children with their head on straight that are competent and confident. Success is making a positive impact on people's lives. Success is waking up rested and happy. Success is taking a deep breath and
Yeah.
not having any congestion. It's like there's a lot of ways to define success.
Perspective.
Perspective, everything. Perspective is everything. Context is everything. Perspective will help you navigate life with a more positive outlook. It's like you'll get a lot of perspective when you travel. You meet a lot of different people, see how they view the world. You'll meet a lot of people that have less than you. Hey, what's up? Uh, uh, yeah, I'm on a call right now. It's all right. Um, you'll meet a lot of people that have less than you, but they have a more positive outlook on the world. So you see that material things are not everything. So yeah, when I was a kid, like quite often my parents would they would do like a they would pick families and like they would get toys for them during the holidays, and like we would go to their like we would go to the projects and just and give them toys, and like that gave me perspective. That's like when you see that, you see a mom that like couldn't provide this for her kids and we're helping them. It's like it didn't matter that it was us doing it. It was just that somebody was there and like somebody had reached out that helping hand.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah. So perspective is everything.
Ooh. Wellness.
Wellness. I mean, wellness is everything too. Because when you say wellness, I think health and wellness. I'm thinking mental health. I'm thinking, earlier when I went outside to work out and I got the sunlight, that's everything to me. You know, uh, when you're well, I mean, because what is wellness is being well. When you're well, it's like you're gonna be happier and positively affect the people around you. So, yeah.
Resilience.
Actually, I had a college teammate with resilient tattooed on his back on the top. That was his only tattoo. And whenever I hear that word, I think of him immediately. But besides that, it's like I don't know. You just when you're resilient, you're just a fighter. You're not gonna take uh, you're not gonna take failure as a finality.
Mm. And I got one last one. Perseverance.
I just think of my mom, really going back to emailing them coaches. Like that was the number one example I've seen in my life of somebody who's like, all right, we're gonna make this happen by any means. This is the blueprint to do it. She literally gave me the blueprint on how to do it. And then you see, I applied that to my own life, and then used it myself and see where it got me. So yeah, I just think of my mom emailing those coaches, get me on them visits. Like, yeah, we made it work. Shout
Yeah.
out, mom. Yeah.
So somebody listening to this or even seeing this, what is one last thing that you would like to drop?
Um, just remember that not everybody, well, nobody has it all figured out. Everybody's just we're all just floating on a rock, like just figuring out each day. Of course, there's going to be people that have it more figured out than you, but in the end, we're all going to pass on, and there's going to be another generation. So like, don't put so much pressure on yourself, because I think most of the pressure that people put on themselves has to do with money and success, whatever. And speaking for myself too, like that's a big stressor for me a lot of times. So like when I talk to family and they just really remind me like, yo, it's okay. Like you're gonna figure it out. So as long as you always remember who you are, stay true to yourself, like, the pieces are gonna be put together. It's just like it's all God's timing at the end of the day. That's what I believe. So
Yes,
yeah,
sir. I thank
yeah,
you so much, brother, coming on here.
man.
And this has been this has been great. So how do we follow you through social media or best way to keep up with you?
Yeah, you can find me pretty much everywhere at Troy Blyden. I'm mainly on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. So those are my main three, but I'm on Twitter too at T Blyden. Not really on there though. You can get your imperfect t-shirts at troyblyden.com. Check out the Paid Day Off podcast. That's my podcast with me and my friends. We've been boys since like 2009, high school. Uh, yeah, that's where you can find me. You can catch me on tour next year with the Globetrotters. So yeah,
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Let's Go show. You know what I say? Let's go, baby. Peace.
let's go, baby.
I'm out.
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.